Hello everyone, this is Chromý and together we will continue the course Interdisciplinary Approaches to Language and its Use. This will be a special presentation since we will focus on only one study and in more detail. We will discuss the famous paper Syntactic Coordination in Dialogue by Holly Branigan, Martin Pickering and Alexandra Cleland. This is a study which employed a dialogue game to study language production and more precisely how much do speakers syntactically align to each other during a dialogue. The authors used what they called Confederate scripting technique. The research design was quite smart. There was a confederate and a participant who sat opposite each other, but they could not see each other because there was a barrier between them. The participant was told that the experiment aims to find out how well people communicate when they cannot see each other. Both the confederate and the participant had cards on the table in front of them, and also a card-filled box. The confederate and the participant took turns in describing the pictures on cards in their boxes. Their task was to choose the correct cards based on the given description. Importantly, the confederate had a script of what she has to say while describing the cards. Each card depicted an action and there was a verb printed on the card which the speaker should use for its description. We already said that the aim of the study was to analyze syntactic alignment between the speakers. More precisely, the research focused on the so-called syntactic priming. This is a tendency to repeat the syntactic structure in ways that cannot be explained by non-syntactic factors. We distinguish between the prime, which is the syntactic structure at first, and target, which is the resulting syntactic structure which may be influenced by the prime. The structures which were used in the study were double object structures, such as the girl gave the boy the book, and prepositional object structures, such as the girl gave the book to the boy. Notice that both structures have the same meaning and that they may be used to describe completely identical events. The study by Holly Branigan and her colleagues asked whether the participants would have a tendency to repeat the same syntactic structure as the confederate used. For example, if the confederate describes a card with a double object structure, such as the cowboy offers the guy a banana, the participant may have a tendency to use a double object structure too when describing her card. Here you can see the results reported as proportions. Primes were always given by the confederate and targets by participants. We can see that participants tended to produce the same syntactic structure as in the prime. For example, when the same verb was used in the prime and in the target, people were successfully primed by a prepositional object structure in 86% of cases, and they were successfully primed by a double object structure in 69% of cases. Similar thing happened also in case the verbs differed, but the effects were smaller. In sum, the results are clear evidence for syntactic priming in production and for the idea that speakers tend to syntactically align in dialogue. Before we will conclude this presentation, I have one reading tip for you. The study by Holly Branigan and her colleagues shows that speakers align syntactically. However, syntax is not the only domain of interactive alignment. Alignment happens at various linguistic levels. For example, this study by Susan Brennan and Herbert Clark documents alignment in the domain of lexical choice. If you enjoyed the presentations, we would be glad if you would like them on YouTube. That is all from me now. See you next time.